Hey, what's up, guys? It's Chase. I'm so incredibly stoked to have you with us. We're going to discuss so many great things on today's podcast. My buddy Sam and I have been discussing a lot of things for a long time, and we felt like it would be a great idea to just record it. And today we're going to talk about everything from TikTok to the cryptocurrency bull run, AI, and Apple Vision Pro.
So TikTok, I think, is going to get banned. I think it's going to go away.
Chinese TikTok is actually more like edu-talk, right? It's about educational content, bettering and growing people's minds, where TikTok here in the US, I would arguably say, is a bioweapon.
Fiat is going down, so we're going to concede the US dollar and be first to buy up the digital dollar, the digital asset, which is Bitcoin, before anyone else can realize what's going on. We're going to own that.
Like, if every single millionaire on the planet wanted to have just one singular Bitcoin, there wouldn't be enough supply to satisfy that.
So my simple question to people who are frightened of AI would just simply be, have we solved every problem in the universe yet?
AI can help along the way, but you still need human beings to direct it and, essentially steer the vision of what you're trying to create. Hey everybody, welcome to the ELAV8 podcast. We're here with my co-host, Sam Messman, a legend within the field. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but we decided that we needed to have conversations in public because we're always nerding out together, and we feel like that, maybe people will be interested in it. But that being said, Sam, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're interested in, and I can't wait to dive in today.
Jace, I'm just a guy walking through life. No, I don't actually know where I necessarily fit at this specific moment in time. Traditionally, I've always filmmaking is the passion, and then somewhere along the line that connected with technology, which is now connected into the global financial system and politics and meditation and Zen and spirituality and a whole bunch of other things. So at a certain point, we'll just call it a student of life. But what I'm most interested in, actually, at this point, if I had to single-mindedly boil it down, is how in our modern age does a person preserve their humanity and creative freedom, and that is leveraging all of these topics into a life worth living.
Wow. I mean, I always knew you were philosophical, but every time like we actually start talking, I'm always like, man, this dude's deep. But hey, before we dive in, I just want people to know how we met, because I think it will set the stage for like people understanding how we know each other and etc.
Yeah, well, I believe it was the Final Cut Creative Summit, which I think for both of us probably feels like a few lifetimes ago. I don't even know if I had my server company at that point. I don't think I did. I think that was, or it was like just starting.
It was just before. Yeah.
So that was, and then you became a customer of the server company, but then you would come over and we were going to talk about your server, and we would then come up with new ideas for products that probably still should get made and haven't been made at this point, that still don't exist yet but should, and new ways to use metadata and all of that. And I think in the end, Jace, I have always appreciated your intelligence across numerous subject matters versus just being one of the specialists who can't like get out of their own like little small puddle on the street.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. But I'm going to tell one story when I knew we were going to be like real tight. You may remember this, right? So we're sitting at Father's office in Culver City at a dinner, early dinner with Apple. Like, we're talking to him about Final Cut Pro and stuff, and we're both friends with him, and like you and I kind of knew each other, and we're starting to know each other. And I looked over at you, and I just had a feeling. I go, "Yo, Sam." You go, "Yo, what's up, man?" I go, "Ethereum just hit $800," and you go, "No way!" And you pulled your phone out, and you looked at me and goes, "Full send, let's go." Do you remember that?
I totally believe it. I don't remember that exact moment, but like, yeah. And then that is probably right around the time that I overtraded everything and managed to light my entire crypto holdings on fire in a matter of like 2 days and like panic just disasters.
Yeah.
like chasing everything. It was an education.
I just remember you and I were supposed to be like really focused on that meeting. I
No
don't
one cared
remember
about Final Cut at that point. Yeah.
yeah, Final Cut, the Pro Apps team, they didn't exist. You and I were just like literally looking at our Coinbase like every 5 seconds. We're just like underneath the table. I'm like, dude, Ethereum's still pumping. You're like, yeah.
It's at
So
4,000 now, dude.
dude, it's still going. It's still going. I mean, Solana is like on a tear, so it's great. But hey, we have so much to cover today. And the very first topic, I want you to tell me a little bit about TikTok. What's going on there?
Well, so TikTok, I think, is going to get banned. I think it's going to go away. I think it is tactically, I think my personal point of view is I think the US is finally looking at the way China is doing business with US companies and is now officially in tit for tat mode where we are officially uncoupling. And I am going to be very excited to watch the collective temper tantrum of Gen Z as this goes down.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, look, I think we both will agree that, addressing the fact that, a foreign entity has so much control over the minds of the youth and, retracting that in some degree is a good idea, right?
Or at the very least, I mean, why would we give them privileges that they don't give us?
That's a really good point. I've never actually thought about that before, but yeah, you're absolutely correct. Correct. I mean, the curtain, is it called the Iron Curtain? I always mess this up. I think that's Russia, but it doesn't matter. The just the media blackout, from us. It's a very omnidirectional relationship. China can completely see what we're up to if they want, and we really can't peep behind the curtain if we don't want, if we wanted to. So yeah, it's a
So,
point.
just as a pure, like, do you want a lot of relationships like that in your life?
I mean, personally, I mean, you're like one of my only friends. So, like, that
Well,
I
no,
really
but
have.
like, I mean more like from a reciprocity standpoint. Imagine you're like, hey, come on over, take anything you want out of my house. Then you go over
Yeah.
to that other person's house and they're like, stay in this one room and they're going to watch you the entire time. And you leave and you breathe, you do anything, you're in trouble. Pretty quickly, you're going to be like, this doesn't feel like an even relationship.
Yeah. And you know what's really funny is the US is actually kind of slow on the execution of this because in other countries, especially like India, and India basically banned, well, it didn't basically, it outright banned TikTok many years ago now. And they banned like 48 apps, I believe, in the first tranche and basically shut China off from the India populace because if you look at Chinese apps, right, like Chinese TikTok is very different from US TikTok. Chinese TikTok is actually more like edutalk, right? It's about educational content, bettering and growing people's minds. Where, TikTok here in the US, I would arguably say is a bioweapon.
I think it is a bioweapon. There's no question that it's a bioweapon. And I think it's also interesting that India banned it and yet is also still in BRICS.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of it, man. We're gonna have to touch on that. Yeah, I mean, that might be a good transition point actually to go into the crypto bull market because, I mean, BRICS is kind of dictating that to a degree, right? I mean, I would love to
Well, but
actually.
you don't think this is
Yeah,
going to bring BRICS down too? I mean, why would anyone switch to a BRICS currency, which is also fiat, which is not based on anything? Like, do you want to know what I think's really going on? Just sorry to interrupt and
I
spoil
want
your
to hear it.
thunder. I think the US did some calculus and was like, fiat is going down.
Mhm.
So we're going to concede the US dollar and be first to buy up the digital dollar, the digital asset, which is Bitcoin, before anyone else can realize what's going on. We're going to own that. And then BRICS can compete with a dollar that's not going to be there anymore. And they can lose because we're going to own the crypto economy.
So, do you think that the ETFs, right, the SEC coming out and just blanket approving the SE, these ETFs, it wasn't grayscale, it wasn't the legal decision that was behind that? You think that's almost like a false flag that got us to approve that, but that's the overall agenda?
Well, I don't think who knows who sets the overall agenda. I'm just simply looking at this like if you see the writing on the wall, right? And you're like sunk cost theory, like you're like at a certain point, you're like, okay, the gig is up. Everyone knows what a fiat currency is. The crypto dollar is going to go away. they're talking about EVs and renewable energy anyway.
Mhm.
And you see an entire set of countries lining up to come after your dollar, and you've got massive amounts of debt anchored to this thing. At a certain point, you see that you have a sinking ship, but what you also see is that you're still the reserve currency in the world. And you see the next layer of technology that's not tethered to your existing one. So if I'm playing that game theory and I see somebody's coming after my like dominance in the reserve currency, but I see that the entire technology fundamentally is going to go away, what do? You use your superior buying power to buy up the next asset that's coming. You skate to where the puck is going, and then you let people have the thing that's dying while you then are on more solid ground.
How much debt is our country in at the moment? Do you know off the top of your head?
$36 trillion.
$36 trillion. That's
It
right.
goes up a trillion every 100 days.
Yeah, I saw that chart. I don't know if you
But you
saw
know who's number two?
what?
China.
China. Well, I mean, you're watching what's happening with the real estate market, right? Like Evergrande and how that's completely blown up and now it's starting to take down our, real estate here in the US. People are not, they don't really realize what's happening with the business real estate sector and how it's just going to totally, once that bubble pops, it's going to take down everything.
Well, it's going to take down everything there and ripple through to ours, but ours hasn't even busted yet, which is the commercial real estate thing, where
Yep.
all that paper is coming due over the next 2 years. And so there's a lot of people who are leveraged on that. So the question is, what happens when China's real estate sector goes down and the US's goes down, and the two largest economies at the same time, while both are unsustainably in debt with their fiat currencies and everyone knows it?
Yeah. But I mean, if your theory's true, right? And let's say they're secretly buying, I mean, well, this isn't a secret. This is openly known,
And
but
the central banks are buying tons of gold right now too.
I saw that. Yeah. And they've been doing that for a while, especially BRICS countries. They've been buying a lot of gold for a very long time. But, the United States is actually, if not the largest, one of the largest holders of Bitcoin right now, currently. So if your theory is correct, right, they're already established and positioned in a place to where they could eradicate the $36 trillion in debt if they just pump it to the moon, which it kind of seems like it might happen.
Well, and this is where I'm not educated.
Yeah.
Imagine the US has all of this Bitcoin,
Hmm.
and we've gone through in our history numerous times where we've had to flush the currency and restart it. What happens if you flush your own currency to the debt?
Well, I mean, it's literally a conversion, right? You can pay off the debt with Bitcoin. That's what's crazy. See, like the reality is the consensus mechanism of Bitcoin is what makes it so valuable. Consensus usually has only been constrained to countries and borders, right? But now consensus for the first time in humanity is now borderless. It's permissionless. So everybody, every single country has value assigned to Bitcoin.
But even simpler though, Jace, could you also not just print $36 trillion, hand it to all of your debtors, and then just switch over to Bitcoin as the primary currency?
You know what's terrible about that though? There is a gotcha somewhere in there. So like, people like you and and I imagine the people that will watch this have familiarity with digital currency, right? So they'll be fine. But the people that don't have proximity currently to, digital currency, they will be uh just in such a financial disadvantage. It's almost income. I can't even comprehend how bad it will be for them. I mean, I know you read Jekyll Island. You got me turned on to that book, right? And one of the like great things they talk about is people who are the most wealthy have the closest proximity to the printer, right? And in a weird way, those who hold the Bitcoin and have the closest proximity to the Bitcoin will be more financially secure. So, normies and the normie generation that have no exposure to this digital asset are just going to be one, they're going to have a learning curve problem. They're going to have to learn how to, create their wallets, send the currency, as well as keep the currency safe. I mean, it's just crazy to really think about.
Well, I mean, I think we're officially converting to some form of a digital economy. So it's just a question of what that standard is. And gold is heavy to move around. So you need a digital gold as an asset to back whatever that currency is.
Yeah.
So whatever happens with the currency, it has to be backed in some some way with a scarce asset that has underlying value. And I think that is the function of Bitcoin moving forward, because there's only ever going to be 21 million. Imagine if there were only 21 million millionaires in the world.
I mean, I can't. I mean, I was reading this stat the other day, and I know you're already there, but just for everybody that's watching, like if every single millionaire on the planet wanted to have just one singular Bitcoin, there wouldn't be enough supply to satisfy that. And that is like what got me full orange pilled when I realized that. Is like, wow, not every single millionaire is going to be able to have one singular Bitcoin. Like when you actually think about that, that's insane.
And now with the amount that's owned by the ETF funds and all of that stuff, actually, we're going way lower than that. So we're probably now down between what else El Salvador owns and all the big heavy hitter whales, which probably make up half of the existing Bitcoin at least in
Mhm.
existence. There can probably only be amongst individuals a few million actual millionaires in the entire world when it comes to Bitcoin
I
ever.
know. It's crazy. And like what's even crazier is like you just talked about the ETFs. Like I don't know if people realize is that the ETFs are buying more Bitcoin than the supply that's hitting uh the exchanges every day. Like they literally there's supply shock, because of the
Four to
Bitcoin
one.
money.
It's
Huh?
4 to 1 at
It's
the
four to
moment,
one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They're
and it's
they're
about to
buying
go
more
get
than
cut in
mine.
half.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's about 50 billion, and this was a couple weeks ago, so it's gotten worse since. But last I looked, like 2 weeks ago, this blew my mind. $200 billion is being purchased by the ETFs every day. 50 billion is being made available. So
Mhm.
when you think about that from a pure scarcity, and it's not like these inflows are going to stop, they're only going to accelerate because there's still banks, and Vanguard still doesn't have an ETF. All of these other places still don't have them, right?
Yeah, but you
Vanguard is
saw
like,
what happened to their CEO, right?
no, what happened?
Their CEO is gone now.
Really? They got rid
Oh,
of.
oh, he's
I have
gone.
a feeling Vanguard's coming out with an ETF, right? So
Yeah,
like,
no, that was big. That was big. Like, I mean, because they got crushed. I mean, it's the most successful ETF of all time. Of all
so
time.
what's going to stop this? That's the thing, is why would there be a correction? There's no supply. It's the most scarce asset in existence.
You want to hear something that's really funny? And I just found this today. I wish I knew who talked about it because I want to give them credit. Is you based on what you just said, right? The price should be higher, right? Just like common sense, it should be higher. But right, like right now,
Yeah.
all right.
Mhm.
You know how they're keeping it like suppressed?
No.
They're intentionally destroying the futures market.
What do you mean?
The futures, you don't actually have a coin. It's a contract. So they're intentionally wrecking the futures market to keep this like the price down, right? And so the ETFs are buying all the available supply at a price that isn't going higher. Does that make
And
sense?
then what? And then all of a sudden, it's just going to slingshot and
It's going
correct
to
upwards, isn't
slingshot.
it?
It's literally it's literally like Wile E. Coyote, all right, trying to catch the Roadrunner. He has
Well,
that.
explain how that works, though. So how can you fix the price like that?
So they're betting against the futures, right? So those liquidations that you're seeing like crazy right now, if you look at liquidations on shorts and longs, right? There's millions, billions of dollars getting wiped out like every couple days, right? And because of that, the price is yin yanging between roughly like 68,000 and 72,000 right now. And it's staying roughly in that range. Okay. They're doing that intentionally. They're taking small L's, all right, to ensure that they can scoop the supply at a price that's within that range. Because the second people start realizing that all this is happening, the price is going to like spiral out of control and they're not going to be able to contain it and they're not going to be able to buy as much Bitcoin.
But then they bought it already, so then they're just going to watch their fortune increase as everyone has FOMO.
Correct.
And that's really, so they wanted to get as big as, they actually have more than MicroStrategy now,
Yeah.
Grayscale does and all of this stuff. So this is how they're going to get all their clients rich, by artificially keeping the price down, seeing exactly how much of the existing supply they can grab. And then at a certain point, they let the futures market untether, and it just goes parabolic.
There it is. There it is. Just watch. I mean, I'll send you a link after this call, and I wish if I can find it, I'll throw it up on here. I'll edit
I
it
mean,
in
how
one
does
of
no
them.
one, like, okay, why do you know this? And you're telling me, and
Yeah.
why does no one else know?
I mean, here's the reality, right? Is that like financial mechanisms are intentionally hard, right? They're not impossible to understand, but they've been made intentionally difficult to understand. And the reason why is because if everybody had financial literacy, then no one would be struggling to make money in the stock market, right?
And so this is how they're going to price out all of the regular investors.
Correct. Yeah. So I think I told you, and you can confirm this. Like, I think I was talking to you in October of this year, and I said we're in a bull market. Do you remember me saying that to
Yep.
you? We were at I think $29,000, and I was like going nuts. I'm like Sam, we're in a bull market. We're in a bull market right now. And I was telling anybody that would listen, I was saying we're in a bull market. And this isn't like an ego push or whatever. I'm just trying to explain something. I'm trying to explain something to anyone that's listening. At that moment, right? At that moment when I started saying that, it was all about math. I saw exactly what was going to happen in my head. I looked at the everybody did this comparison, right, with the gold ETFs, right? You probably saw those Spartan spins, like when Bitcoin gets its ETF, this is what's going to happen, right? So I started looking at those charts and I started realizing, wow, when this happens, that there's not going to be enough supply. And to me, that was supply shock. I was like, okay, we're going to enter into parabolic supply shock.
But you realize what's going to happen then, right? So once that goes parabolic and people can't figure out that they can't get Bitcoin, right, at a reasonable price,
Mhm.
what's going to happen? You're going to
Alt
see the
season,
altcoins, alt season, the
alt
mother of all
season.
alt seasons.
Yeah, it's gonna also gonna be the mother of all crashes, by the way. It's gonna be so awesome. It's gonna be so great. I mean, look, I'm gonna level with you. There are gonna be people that lose everything. They're gonna lose
Well, how
everything.
are they going to lose it? Why are they going to lose it?
Because
Because
okay,
they're going to chase. They're going to do what I did like 7 years ago.
not what you did, what everybody does. All right. First of all, everybody has to have their growing pains. Everybody has to have their growing pains. They chase, every meme coin in existence, right? They think their paper gains are realized when they're not. Everybody's going to experience this. And, I don't want to laugh because I felt it. I mean, I lost a lot of money on one of those cycles. But the point I'm trying to make is that, yeah, it's going to be the mother of all alt seasons. You're right. Everything's going to absolutely rip. You're going to feel like a genius. I'm here to tell you, whoever's watching this, you're not a genius. You're not. You're not. Sell. Like, whenever you start
Yeah.
feeling like you're the smartest person alive,
Oh,
that's
that's
when you
get out.
sell.
Get
Yeah, you
out.
sell.
Right.
You sell.
Right at that moment, you're like, that there has to be a switch that's like, you're not the only person thinking this. And when everybody thinks it, the smart people have already left the room.
They're already gone. They're just stretching it out, watching their new 90-inch, LCD TV. It's so
And if
great.
you want a really safe piece of advice, where if you're in a spot where you're like, oh, it might go to 3 million if I sell, and I want to keep, you're parabolically counting your profits, but not taking into consideration what happens if it loses 90% of its value and how sad you're going to be.
Very
Do
sad.
this: sell half, and then it's fine either way.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't met a single person that's regretted profit in my whole entire life.
Okay, well, let's talk about this, right?
Yeah,
So when this is my thing, and I want you to
I know.
solve my problem. Be my therapist right now. I'm going to lay out what keeps me up at night, which is I fear a catastrophic stock commercial real estate collapse that untethers the market, brings everything down, and I still think fundamentally Bitcoin pops. But what I'm trying to figure out is whether I should sell some in the short term so I can capitalize on that, or I let this parabolic thing happen and it just goes up. I take a bunch of profits and redistribute and get cheaper assets in other classes.
So the one thing that we have going for us being all the degenerates in this market right now, is that it's an election year. All right. And historically in election years, the president tries to do everything in their power, right? They're pulling every lever and switch to make sure the economy is in prosperity, right? Especially if it's an incumbent trying to go for a second term, which, as you know, just announced, I think today, that it looks like Trump and Biden are going to be, the people that are going to the mat in this election. Well,
Inspired choices.
Inspired, so inspired. But Biden, right? This isn't political. This is just common sense. Is going to do everything in his power to try to pump the economy. All right, good economy, good crypto market, right? Now, you can also come at me and we can talk about inflation. We probably should talk about inflation, right? There's a real problem with inflation right now in this country. And people will start to sell and liquidate assets to ensure that they can pay their bills, right? We both know that. But what I'm saying is that I think we have at least until Q3, like late Q3, Q4, before we have to start making those really like tough decisions of when to sell. But as your therapist, I'm going to tell you that you should start laddering out probably around 85, 86K. I'm not saying sell everything. You should start selling a little bit. Sell like 5%, sell 10%. Just start.
Now I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Why? So why 85?
So I have a theory, and this actually isn't my theory, right? This is one of my friend's theories. His name's Quentin. And he says that whenever you have mass consensus, right, where people are saying we're going to 120K, right? His belief is that you should always do 70% of what the mass is saying, right? So roughly, right, what is 70% of 120K? I don't know off the top of my head.
About 85. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, it's around 95, right? So that's my number. It's like, okay, I'm gonna start taking profits around there because that makes sense.
How much are you gonna take?
I'm gonna take probably 30 to 40% right off the rip. Just put it in the bank account and just hang out. Yeah. I'll be happy. I'm not gonna have any regrets about that.
Smart. Yeah. I mean, look, and then are you upset if it goes to 225 because it went parabolic?
I mean, yeah, I'll be upset. I'll be really upset. I'll be the first to say I'm upset. I will champion that I'm an idiot.
No, but what if?
Yeah.
So what if I'm going to present an alternate scenario? Part of me is like, I don't want to sell my Bitcoin at any cost because.
Okay, that was the next thing I was going to go to. I'm talking about altcoin positions.
Okay. That's where I was like, so selling 30% of your altcoins at that point. Once they've had the little pump and it goes 85 and you see the little wash that happens, I think that is probably the play. But I think selling your Bitcoin could be catastrophically stupid.
So, I mean, here's what's like kind of in conflict, and it's a meme right now, right? Is Michael Saylor was just on a podcast. I don't know if you saw this clip where a analyst was like, "When are you selling?" And he's like, "I'm not selling." And she like pushes him. She presses him. It's like, Michael, people only hold assets to sell them, right? And he says, "I'm not selling my Bitcoin," right? I'm actually of that mentality too. Like, I don't know if I ever will sell my Bitcoin.
I mean, the reality is you'll be able to take loans against it the same way you take a mortgage.
Exactly. And that comes to the financial education that we're talking about is like, Bitcoin is going to be what we lend against in the future. Right? Like that is a hard asset. There's
21 million of these in the world.
Yeah.
In a 10 trillion is not a crazy like metric, right? So if it hits $10 trillion on just on the Bitcoin side and it becomes the equivalent of gold, right?
Yeah.
10 trillion per Bitcoin. That's a lot of money that you can take a loan out against just in a single asset, even from a single coin.
And that doesn't mean you should be a degenerate. You still have to pay your bills. Like you get loans against this. You still have to pay the interest. You still have to pay like the actual.
Well, do you want to know what I'm going to do?
What?
I'm not going to live crazy. All I'm going to do is I'm going to get the exact house I want, and I'm going to have no mortgage and as few as possible expenses so that I can do whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want to do it.
Yeah. I tell all my friends that I'm going to live in TradeFi probably after this cycle. And they're like, what? You're going to be in traditional finance? I was like, yeah, dude, I'm going to,
Oh,
put
there's
my
going to be some
money
cheap
away.
assets there.
Yeah. And just live, just literally live off the interest. That's fine. Let's do that. I don't have
Mhm.
to be a giga millionaire. I'm good. Just, it's fine.
What do you really need?
Exactly. Honestly, I just need a camera. I need a camera and the ability to make stuff, which actually, the segue into our next thing is how is crypto going to help creatives? I mean, I know you're very passionate about, the creator economy, storytelling. I mean, the name of your company is We Make Movies, for crying out loud.
This is what I'm legitimately excited about, that somebody is going to do this and it's going to happen based on one of these smart contract platforms, is that instead of having any kind of accounting or financial apparatus that is hidden behind a series of entities, a piece of content of value that is investable will be written into a smart contract's DNA that will automatically, as money enters the account, get partitioned out according to the smart contract variables in that contract, where there is a rule and an actual accountable thing of what happened in a ledger to every single dollar that entered from that piece of content. So there will be no material way to screw an artist financially if
Mhm.
something is done the right way.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, man. I look. I mean, the microtransactions weren't possible in the past, right? Like, and everything you're talking about is now possible.
Residuals. Think about how residuals get handled.
Dude, I'm thinking about streaming payments. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
streaming payment. Like, so this whole thing that drives you crazy. I know it drives. We never even talked about it. Is that, oh, you'll get your payment in 30 days. That 30 days comes, right? And it's like now 60. It's now 90. Sometimes you
Yeah.
don't get paid at all. Everything you just talked about can be done in real time. In real time,
Mhm.
it can be feeless, which is even crazier. Is like if you use your Amex card at any Starbucks and you swipe it, there's a 3.5% fee on that, right? That's crazy. That's crazy. Like you're now going to eliminate those companies and their margins and their profit, and you're going to be in complete control of your financial just destiny. And that's never been possible before, especially in the industry that we call home.
And that is, it's going to be used for good, for what
Mhm.
I just talked about. And it's also going to be used to screw over and destroy people. So it just depends on which paradigm you want to exist in and which people you surround yourself and choose to do business with, and how much you insulate and leverage the technology so it doesn't leverage you.
Mhm.
That's the reality, because there's going to be two schools of thought, but for me, this is the ultimate solution to fair and equitable payments for artists, for creatives, that are no longer about like net profits that studios get to steal. Um, like you can't cheat the ledger if it's done right.
Man, that's beautiful. Man, I feel inspired right now. Maybe we should make that. We should make that. But
That's what I want.
so this is going to lead me right into AI because, like, honestly, man, like that's all over the news right now. We just had a writer strike, an actor strike about AI. We haven't talked about this yet. What's your thoughts about AI in the entertainment industry or in crypto or just at all? Like, what's your thoughts on it?
So it's a tool like anything else. Um, but I think, well, there's two things that are going to happen, right? Everyone's like, AI is going to put people out of jobs and do things. And I'm like, well, if AI renders a job obsolete, then that means that job never needed to exist, in my personal opinion. So, but my simple question to people who are frightened of AI would just simply be, have we solved every problem in the universe yet? So imagine what would happen if we cleared out a lot of the really dumb industries that exist just for the sake of existing, for instance, like tax accountants, and we leverage the talents of those people towards maybe solving poverty.
Hmm.
What would happen? We might fucking solve poverty.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what was it? Elon Musk said he could solve poverty for what was something like $30 billion instead of sending money
Well, maybe you
somewhere.
shouldn't have bought Twitter then.
Yeah, I mean, I love Twitter. I'm a big fan of X actually now. It's just so much fun. Like you walk into the war zone, and if you're not prepared, it's kind of a wild time. It's like the wild, wild west. But yeah, man, I find AI so fascinating right now because of everything you just said. And I don't believe it's going to take as many jobs as people think it will. I think it will, take jobs, to be very clear. But at the end of the day, you still need human input, right? Like, even though AI may even generate or come to fruition where it has sentience, right now, currently, we still need to prompt the AI to do things, right? Like if I were to code an AI, I still have to know how to input that code into my, code simulator or emulator, and I have to be able to publish that code, put it on the internet, and then market that code, right? Saying, hey, here is the site that I've now created that has these services on it. AI can help along the way, but you still need human beings to direct it and, essentially steer the vision of what you're trying to create.
And that, Jace, is really the thing that is the biggest hope and most terrifying thing that should be for the average human, which is it's going to force all of us to ask ourselves why we do what we do, be versus being brainless, brain dead automatons that just show up to collect a paycheck and push buttons to justify our existence. We're going to have to suddenly examine every process and be like, is this serving me? Why do I do this? And how do I, like, why do I push this button? Does this button need to be pushed? Should there even be a button? Because, what's the purpose of our existence? What are we trying to accomplish here?
Yeah. I mean, I really like pushing buttons, just to be very, very clear, emotionally and physically. Love pushing
Yeah.
buttons. Yeah.
Well, so there it is. So if you like it and you know why, then it's a question of which buttons do you want to push as a human being, because those are choices you're going to then have, right? And that's and now with AI, right, the choices that you're going to have with those buttons can do way more things.
Yeah. So, going back on the AI topic and just like really exploring, what we just talked about, tell me what your thoughts about the most recent strike. We have not talked about this at all because you
There
were
might
on
even be another one.
vacation.
Did you know that? Did you
Wait,
know
what?
there might be an upcoming strike too?
I did. I saw the notes that you wrote, and I'm like, what? I thought you were
IATSE
going.
might get ready to strike. People are terrified. So here's what
Wait,
actually is
wait,
happening.
whoa. You got to be more grand. Like, you got to set the tone. Maybe lean into the mic a little bit and give me like that, like ethereal voice. Like, what's going on?
So IATSE might be getting ready to strike. Here's what's actually happened in the last little while. So post people, editors, professional editors, they were actually working for the most part during the strike.
Mhm.
So everything hits them last, right? Because they were
Yeah.
working on the series of shows that got in under the deadline and they were able to continue working. And the contracts that got negotiated were for everybody else but really the everyday crew people. So you had directors, actors, and writers strike.
Oh,
Um, but the average crew person, they didn't get their deals done. And now what's happening is the streamers, Hollywood, they're trying to screw the crew people because, of course, Hollywood can't afford another strike, right? But
yeah.
whose contract is due up now? It's the crew people. And they still have the same exact needs that the other sets of people had. And they still need to bargain for the same deal. And they're also in the same mindset of like, we actually have nothing left to lose if we get screwed now. So we might have to push this panic button. So Hollywood, because of its greed, is busy eating itself because it just won't do the right thing for anybody, and it has to be bludgeoned to death in order to part with the money. And I think a lot of it is by design to bleed people into a slavery mentality so that they will just do anything for a job. And you have an existential fight happening now between creative people waking up to the idea that the industry they've chosen hates them and they have to fight to the death in order to get a living wage out of a job that's already too scarce as it is.
Man, I actually did not know that. I'm actually kind of mad at you now because you're going to send me down one of my Jace rabbit holes and you're going to get one of my late night texts. Yeah, I will say I do respect something about you so high. I respect many things about you, but what I do respect is that you know how to parse my very short text messages better than any human being I've ever met. I'll send you
Oh,
like 4 words and you'll be like, dude, got it. And you'll just like blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be one of those late night texts.
yeah, man. It's Well, here's the question that happens if they hit another strike. Like, on what reason does anyone have to live in Los Angeles at this point?
You've been saying that to me for years. You like, and by the way, I would like everyone to know you were right. You tried to get me out of LA before COVID in like 2019. And I was like, I don't know, man. I really like it here. But you were dead on that. Dead on.
Come to Atlanta, June 1st. I'm there. I'm
Yeah.
going. So
Wait, so
it's
you're doing the
yeah,
whole Atlanta thing. Okay, good. You
within
talked about
5 years,
yeah.
it's going to be the next Hollywood.
I believe that, man. I have a lot of friends out there. One of my friends, Ozzy Rube, bought Tyler Perry's first studio. It
Oh,
was pretty cool. Yeah. So maybe I should just go work for that guy. Just hang out with you.
come hang out, man. Because the thing is, you can afford a house.
Yeah, I could. I could just full send, especially with my bitcoins. Um, yeah. All right. So, thank you for making me aware that I should be terrified again. That's great. And I guess the last thing we should touch on is the Vision Pro. Should we like talk about that
All
real
right. Well, I want your opinion on that. So I did the last couple, but like you actually have one, and I want to know unfiltered,
there?
what is the review?
Okay. First of all, and there's two parts of this review, right? There's the person like me who's a futurist technologist who just loves technology, and then there's like the average person. I'm going to give you the passionate Jace first, right? Which is unequivocally, this is the most advanced, most incredible piece of technology I've ever used. Like, full stop. It's fantastic, and everything about it is incredible. All right. Now, there's that. Now, there's the normie version of that, which is I can emotionally separate, and I'll admit. For the average person, this technology isn't there yet. And I'll tell you why. It's very simple. It's not there yet because it's still a little bit too heavy. The form factor isn't that great. And, for long sessions, I'm fine with it. And I'm cool with it. The price point, too expensive. And the apps aren't there yet. All right. And I'm going to explore all these really quickly. All right. So let's go back to Passionate Jace for a second. The reason why this is the most incredible piece of technology that's ever been created is it's made AR, which isn't new. We all know that. I'm not trying to claim that, this, was before MetaQuest. I would never do that. Is that looking through this device, it solves so many problems, right? The first problem, which is just immediate that you notice right off the second you put it on, is that all the nauseousness that you might feel in an AR experience, that's gone because the screen is so good. It actually feels like you're looking through it. Like the world around you seems accessible. So I can wear this. I can walk around my house. I actually cook in it all the time. I'm literally cooking in this almost daily, just making my food because it's that good. And I don't feel intimidated by doing that. The second thing is the eye tracking is nearly perfect to where you can reach out and you can manipulate the world around you so effortlessly, and that it just feels like a natural extension of yourself. And in all the AR devices I've ever used in the past, I felt like, it wasn't just something was wrong. The latency wasn't there, right? Like I would click and it would take a second for things to react. And I felt like I had to work harder to make the world around me the environment I wanted to create. But in Vision Pro, for the first time, I feel like it truly is just an extension of myself. Now, getting back to the cons, right? Because we always have to deal with the cons, is that the app ecosystem is still so nascent, and that developers have to change their mindset for how they're going to develop apps for this new ecosystem. They're still developing apps in a two-dimensional mindset where this is not even three-dimensional. This is could technically even be four-dimensional whenever you start accepting that things change in front of you and they affect you, right? Like how do I explain this? I'll give you an example. So there's this game I really like called Cut the Rope, right? Cut the Rope's fun. It's great. You've probably played it on your phone. You swipe on the touch screen, you cut the rope, the candy falls into, I guess it's the frog's mouth. It's fantastic. Well, app developers still trying to wrap their mind around how to take their games and make them accessible to this ecosystem haven't made it a 3D immersive game. What they did is they put 3D assets, 3D models around the border of the app, right? So it still reaches out towards you and it feels immersive, but it has a 2D screen behind it, right? So they're not really taking those apps to the potential that they probably should be at. And we're not going to be able to experience that for, probably 3 years, to be completely honest with you. So, in summary, right, my belief, the greatest technological piece of, technology that Apple's ever put out, it's full stop. But it's going to take 3 years for it to reach like mainstream. And I tell everyone, it's like, don't even wait for V2, wait for V3. When you get V3 of this product, I genuinely, with my whole entire being, believe that it's going to take humanity into its next iteration.
Well, let me ask you that then. So let's, you laid out a pretty impressive vision. So what is humanity going to do with this?
They're going to, it's going to allow them to be more efficient, right? So I'll give you a couple like cycles of technology, right? In the past, there was no cell phones, right? There was just rotary phones that people would dial their house, so you'd be able to connect with them, right? You would have to essentially set appointments, right? Like, I'm going to call you at 6 p.m. Right, call me at 6 p.m. And you would wait by the phone. Someone would call you, answer it, get the information you needed, et cetera, and you'd move on. Right. Then there was the advancement of email, right? It was more asynchronous, right? Where you'd be able to communicate, passively. Then the cell phone came where you could be, connected at all times, right? And you would be able to, pull out an experience at your whim. Just pull it out, go into this ecosystem, then put it away. What this does, since it is such an effortless natural extension, you can be immersed at all times, right? So you're separating, in the past where you'd separate immersion, now you can be fully immersed and decide what aspects of immersion you want to be in at any second of any day.
And do you think humanity should be immersed at all times?
No, I do not. But you won't have a choice unless you want to remove your competitive edge, right? So I'll give you an example.
But what are you competing with? So let's actually, this is the real question. So
It's a good question.
All right.
I know where you're going with this.
So what do you have to compete with if none of it's real?
See, this goes back to your introduction where you talked about you being Zen and exploring that, right? See, there's people that can't let go, right? They can't let go. So you have to decide how much of yourself you want to retain and how much of yourself that you want to let go, right? It's a personal like decision for every single human being. I feel like in your self growth, you're at a place where you have that ability. I actually applaud you for it. You can relinquish and just be present, right? Not every single person, I know this is weird to say, but not every single person can do that. Even if they're not chasing something that has a goal, it's like, I need to get to 100%. I need to finish my little side quest, right? They don't even know what it is they're trying to be competitive against. They just know that they have to be plugged in. We're so conditioned as a society to have this dopamine rush, right, at all times. And that's mainly what I'm saying is that people will want to extend that dopamine rush even further.
So now what we're really talking about and what this really is, you ever see that movie Strange Days, that Catherine Bigelow movie?
No, but I'll watch it. I mean, I love Catherine Bigelow.
Oh, go watch this movie. It's from the 90s, right? It's got Ray Fiennes in it, but it's all about they're passing around. It's a dystopian future where they're passing around digital experiences that they inject and they watch, and they're addicted to the experience of little VR experiences, and they savor them. So go watch this movie. But I think that's really what they're talking about, and it's a form of drug addiction. And what you're actually talking about is the perpetual drug addiction of being connected to a dopamine fix. It's like a perpetual like button, and feeling like you're clued in on something, but you don't even know what the like button is anymore. You just know you might miss a like button. This is the ultimate FOMO, isn't it?
Oh man, honestly, that was the best explanation. I can't even compete with that. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it's the perpetual like button. I mean, I'm stealing that from you forever and a day. That's awesome. Yeah, I honestly just blew my mind. Like, keep going. Yeah, you've rendered me speechless because I'm actually just like taking that all in just now.
I'm just saying, man, if you really think about it, I think we all should ask ourselves why we need to be addicted to the like button.
I mean, it's such a philosophical question, but like, I honestly, man, at the end of the day, right? I think this is what it is that movies lied to us in a real way, right? Like we grew up believing in Mayberry and like the perfect life, wealth, opulence, having this house, driving this car, setting expectations at an age where we were told we could be anything we want to be if we just worked hard enough, right? And that mindset, how we were literally conditioned in school, stand up, pledge allegiance, right? And that indoctrination in a way has transferred into the dopamine addiction, right? Because we believe that we need this consumerism to drive us. We believe we need that car. We believe we need that house. We believe that we need all these things. And because of that, we're trapped in this dopamine addiction.
Now, I'm not saying, on the other hand, that like these technologies aren't useful. I think we just, as a society, for our own sanity, like it's like if you're gonna mainline heroin, which is
Yes.
basically what this is, right?
Yeah.
And you know that you're addicted to heroin,
Mhm.
like, and then somebody puts you in a room and is like, "Here's all the heroin you ever want, and then we'll just keep giving it to you." And now you could just put a put a thing over your head and it's just heroin all the time, right? I
Uh,
think you just need to know why you're doing it.
but I don't think people will, right? I like just being honest about it. And I'm not being critical. It's just, I mean, if you look at, things from like birth rates dropping to obesity rising and, all these other,
Sure, man. Yeah,
maladies.
look, all of that stuff. You look around America, this is what happens when you have unlimited food and unlimited buffets. We're just look around.
Yeah, but I'm just kind of like riffing on what you're saying. I think
Yeah.
there's indication that this is happening. I think there's, direct ties to everything you're talking about. And there's indicators that paint the future that you're basically trying to communicate to me right this moment.
I'm just simply I'm actually pro technology.
I know
I
that.
think if we leveraged things like the Vision Pro to simulate how to regenerate ecosystems and jungles and old growth forests and all of that stuff, and like literally we could rebuild the planet probably if we all chose to do that. Um, but I don't know that that's the choice the average person's going to make with their Vision Pro. It's the choice that I would hope that we could get on the same page is probably like ideally we could build the world with it that would be so awesome that we wouldn't be sad about taking the headset off.
You know what though? What you just said is so beautiful, but what's great, and I just wanna just key on one point because I think it's very important, is that it only takes one person. All right. It only takes one person. Not everybody has to be a creator, right? Only one person has to step up and design this stack that you're basically, talking about. And that given the add on why I'm so excited about this technology, and you'll know this better than anyone because you've been to the mothership of Apple, right? You actually understand this, is that their vertical stack of technology paired with Vision Pro is actually probably why I'm the most excited about it. Because you now can code an Xcode, an app, easily distribute it through the App Store, okay, on an ecosystem that will never fail you because it has this conformity. For one device, you code for one device, it works for all of them. So there are opportunities for people and creators and artists to design this world that you're articulating.
I'm just simply saying we're going to design some kind of world. And with
Yeah.
unlimited power and technology, which is in a lot of cases what a lot of this technology represents is like you can pretty much create anything. Then you've got to really think about what you want to create and why. And what I think is in everyone's best interest is to fundamentally, we all sit down and figure out how to create abundance for everybody, uh, because that's actually capable with the tool. But I think what happens for the most part with most technologies, people try and figure out how to create scarcity to hoard something so that they will be fine. But I'm saying that seems like limited thinking.
Okay. All right, Sam, we're at an hour. So give me some closing thoughts because you've been brilliant today. This one is going live. This is the episode. It's going live. We filmed 4 of these, I think. So this is the first
This
one.
is three. This is three. Yeah.
This is 3. Okay.
Three.
Okay.
We did 2 test drives, but I'm fresh. The reason is I'm probably on a little bit more on point because I'm freshly back from traveling around the world and I haven't been working that hard lately. So I've had time to like, don't worry, I'll be dumb again in a couple weeks. But like, it's my closing thoughts are that if you really think about the way that our world is presently constructed, it's incredibly stupid and limiting because you, do you know like have you ever seen a bucket of crabs? Do you know why crabs can't escape out of a bucket?
No, I mean this is gonna be great. But I have seen a bucket of crabs, yeah.
And crabs, they never get out.
Yeah.
It's not because they physically can't do it. It's because every time one of the crabs tries to get out, the other crabs pull it back in.
Wow. Okay, that was way too deep. You're gonna end on that deep. Okay. Okay.
Well, here's how I'm going to extrapolate this, right? So you have an entire world of people who are absolutely terrified of their job being ruined by AI because they are holding on to their desks being like, I need to spend 8 or 9 hours a day so I can bang my fingers on a keyboard and not experience or go outside because I'm too afraid of what happens to the dollars on my screen going away.
Mhm.
And I'm simply saying you could actually leverage that technology to allow you to go outside because those numbers would suddenly be meaningless. So what's the future we're building?
Oh. Okay. All right. Sam, I can't top that. I can't top that at all. I'm not gonna even try. I think that's it. I think that's it. I mean, wow. Okay, so we're gonna do a button up. I mean, guys, thank you so much for watching. Sam and I are going to do this a little bit more regularly. As you can see, there's a reason why I like talking to him. That's how we talk all the time. And, we decided we were going to start filming it, and hopefully you'll find value in the things we say. And if you don't, no problem. We're still probably going to do it anyway. So thank you.
Send hate mail to Jace, though.
Yeah, send it all to me. This man has way more important things to do. So, yeah, that's going to be it. So thanks for watching, guys. Peace.